Welcome back to Deal Flow Live. This is the show where we break down businesses that are for sale. We give our opinion on the price, on what type of person would buy this business, what type of person should buy this business, and we just give a little bit of details that you should be looking at as someone who might be buying a business, as someone who might be selling a business. And today, we're kind of digging into our own personal interests.
Yeah.
Ryan has been looking into buying a laundromat, and we wanted to look at laundromats in our area, right in our backyard.
Yeah, I mean, laundromats are something that you see all over social media. They're kind of popularized, and we long ago had a laundromat come up on our radar, but it just didn't really fit what we wanted to do, and the numbers just weren't there. It was kind of on the downturn. So recently, this came back up in some conversation with people, and I happen to now be in connection with somebody who owns a large portfolio of laundromats, and chatting with them and kind of learning about it. It's one of those industries where I say, kind of like the ones we looked at with construction and some of the other ones. It's these industries where there's not a lot of people who are like tradespeople in these. So I only really feel comfortable looking at these once I know I have somebody who has essentially done the dirty work and says, this is what you do, this is what you don't do. Because on the surface, they seem so simple, but we dig deep and we know that machine costs, the area, all the other stuff that goes into it. So the only reason I'm even considering this is because I now have somebody who is an expert and owns, I think, upwards of 50 that is, spitting game on how these things actually run. So I think off the bat, the first thing that you're probably going to gravitate towards is that price to cash flow ratio.
Massive multiple.
They're asking 6. Wow, that's a devilishly high number.
6.7x multiple.
Yeah.
Or something doing $375,000.
Now, Brody, why would they do that?
Well, laundromats are pretty competitive, to be honest, because they're such a low failure rate kind of business. They're just, they're kind of just cash printing machines that don't require necessarily a lot of work. So they are typically pretty competitive from what I understand, but this seems dramatically high. I think that, if I had to guess, this has probably been on the market for a very long time and is not even getting offers anywhere close to that.
I'm sure. Yeah. I don't know how you could, you're 375, let's round up to 4. It's nowhere close. You're taking years to recoup your investment.
I see they have 3 locations. So there's a lot going on with this. This is a little small portfolio of laundromats.
Then that's even worse. If across 3 of them they're bringing in 375, that's actually pretty bad.
Depends on the size of the store too. It doesn't seem like that low of a margin compared to the revenue, but let's see, what kind of margins are they dealing with? They got 375 over 1.2 mil. They've got like 31% margins. So they're not doing too bad margin wise. The problem is the multiple though.
Yeah.
If you're going to make an offer on a business like this, I would say chop that multiple in half.
Yeah. I was about to say, you're basically giving them the gross revenue at that point. I mean, when I think about
gross revenue times more than 2.
Yeah.
Crazy.
No, it's nuts. I think when it comes to laundromat, my first concern, they have 20 employees, which that's a lot of employees for laundromats.
For 3 locations?
Yeah. It's a lot of people. I'm sure they're probably doing a lot. It's probably maybe more of an absentee business. So you're paying a little bit for that, but you're not paying that much. My thing is like, when it comes to a laundromat, as we've talked about, figuring out your upsells and your add-ons is intensive. For the most part, you're adding dry cleaning. Well, that's systems and people need to do that. You're adding in vending machines, which is now you're bringing in more cost to that. If you're trying to get specialized machines, you're buying new stuff. Nothing is really, there's no like free ads to a laundromat. Everything is going to cost money. So they're very expensive in that sense to make. And they give a nice breakdown down here.
I do like that. This is very uncommon that they show something like this. That they show the actual like basic P&L. I do really like that. It looks like their biggest cost is payroll. No surprise there. Right after that is rent. Right after that is utilities. It's what I would guess for a laundromat. Utilities are going to be insane because they're just running all the time. It's nothing looks egregious. I don't know enough to know the particulars of whether everything is on track there, but I kind of see where things are coming from. The payroll though, for 3 locations, someone managing a laundromat, I'm really curious, like you said, where are those 20 employees coming from?
20 employees and $270,000. That's insane.
Yeah, where's that coming from? Maybe it's a lot of contractors or something, but what would they be using a bunch of contractors for?
Yeah, again, $270,000 is a lot of money, or is not a lot of money for 20 people.
Yeah. So, yeah. Especially when there's managers in place. Maybe the 20 is some kind of typo or something, but that's an average of $13,500.
Ain't nobody managing for that. Yeah.
Yeah. No one's managing for that. I'd say those managers got to be making at least $40K a year.
Yeah.
To be managing that. And that doesn't, 40, that doesn't leave a lot for the rest of the employees. I don't really know where that's coming from.
Yeah. I mean, the thing here is kind of, again, yeah, he doubles, like they're adamant there's 20 people, which I don't understand. Interesting with the financing though. Their financial, let's see, seller will hold a 10%. So seller financing, 10%, not a lot, but hey, it's something. They want $2 million liquid, like proof of $2 million, or buyer can go through a laundromat bank with 35% down. Interesting that there's certain banks that specialize in this sort of stuff.
There's whole brokerages that specialize in laundromats too.
That's
a very, very common type of business.
Yeah. Interesting though, they're adamant on that price. Like they truly believe that this is worth exactly $2,500,000.
Something to point out here though, this is, this goes for any business that's listed. Business is business, and you can make an offer on anything, right? Same as like if you're buying or selling a house, like it's worth whatever someone's willing to pay for it, and it can sell for whatever someone's willing to sell it for. So they could be just deciding to anchor the price really high. I would probably make an offer for like 1.5.
Yeah, I could see trying to meet a 1.5.
That would be about a 4x multiple.
Large, but I mean, it's still something.
For a laundromat, I think that makes sense. The big thing that's jumped out here though is like not SBA financeable. I'm curious why. I have an idea of why. I don't think the SBA would ever go for a multiple like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably not. I don't think it's the health of the business. I mean, maybe it is. You get maybe you say, oh my God, it's on the downturn, but it's probably because they're ridiculously marking up everything. The SBA can't find any values close to what they want.
Yeah, the SBA is not going to, like, for the most part, they're not going to finance anything above like a 3-4x multiple these days. So.
And as somebody who is a broker and works with a large broker, when somebody comes to you with let's say they come with a portfolio of laundromats, and they're like, I want $2.5 million. That's my price. Like, how do you talk to them about that?
If they're doing that kind of
if this guy comes to you and is like, this is my business, these are my numbers, I want this. How are you handling that guy?
We usually suggest that they get a third-party valuation just as like a good measure. We also say, we could list for the business for really anything, but like it's not going to be able to sell for a price like that. Like we usually just shoot them fairly straight. But we'll list it for whatever they want to list it for.
And for somebody like this, because clearly this is still up, and I think most normal, sane people are not going to be like, that's fair. How long would you say somebody like this is going to sit around tolerating people, giving them, their perceived low balls of like 1.2, 1.4? How long have you seen that before, where somebody has to just like gets their pride knocked down essentially because they cannot find a single offer?
Yeah, I mean, that it usually happens when someone's way out of the ballpark with their expectations of their valuation. They're usually going to get their teeth kicked in a couple times, if they think if their expectation is here and the value is here, there's going to be a problem. So we usually try to just have an open and honest conversation about what the value really is and where, like, what real territory they could be in. But we'll list it for whatever they want to list it for. But we usually hope once it's listed, we usually hope that, their expectations get changed once they get some of the real market feedback.
And wasn't that kind of how you got your teeth cut in this industry? Was after a couple sales, you were brought onto a brokerage, kind of like, okay, you're asking too much and you're not ready. Brody's going to take care of you, get you right, get you evaluated, and tell you how you need to improve to get to that valuation. So you actually were the guy who they would send people to be like, this is what you're actually worth.
To have the hard conversation.
Yeah. And now you've started Scale for Sale, which is now a business that is centered kind of around that. A lot of people that come into the system, because it's usually a pipeline from either I need help repairing this, I need help selling this, to either a lot of these people end up being like, I'm actually going to stay on for a while because it's now funny. And this is kind of how this all started, with somebody coming to you with a cash flow of 300 and wanting 3 million, and you being like, all right, buddy, let's simmer down real quick.
What you need to be doing to actually justify that.
And quite honestly, when you have that conversation, I feel like you have a way of having it where people tend to become, they don't get irate. They could become much more educated on their business, and they end up a lot of times being more open to actually wanting to keep the business going, because they're like, wait a minute, I wanted to get this problem and now it's not a problem anymore. So it's an interesting world that when you get into something where you see this discrepancy, kind of understanding the mind of a seller, which that'd be a cool episode, kind of understand, kind of doing an episode all on like the types of sellers that you've met and that you've worked with, and kind of understanding how the different types of people, there are probably archetypes that we could go over.
Yeah.
And I think people figuring out which one they are at the moment is going to be important to figure out what the next step in their business development journey is. And also, as somebody, if you're looking to buy one, understanding what type of seller you're meeting and how to properly approach them and how to speak to them, because not everybody's going to be the same, and people's business are going to be, kind of slotted differently in their brains.
Yeah. And I think, I'd be curious to know what stage of the game this seller is at, because their expectations are clearly, way off base. Whatever sucker pays this much for the business, I wish them well. They're not going to last very long with whatever position they have to put themselves in to do that. This business is not going to sell anytime soon to anyone savvy for that price. So I'd be curious to know what stage of the game they're at. Maybe they're very early in the game and they just haven't really gotten their expectations reset enough.
Mm-hmm. I mean, really, I guess one of the things I would say is, how much is a business worth more? Like, if you were to put a tangible number, a percentage, if somebody says owner absentee, which I never fully believe, but if somebody's like, I don't do a damn thing in my business and it runs just fine, like, how much of a percentage bump do you actually add to your valuation, if any?
A percentage bump?
Yeah, let's say a percentage bump.
It's hard to say you'd add a percentage bump. I think it's more just like there's a multiple range that you're going to fall in for various businesses.
Where does that push it? Like I'm saying, on the multiple range, like, does it give it a half a bump in the multiple? Is it a full point on the multiple?
It's a range too. Like, you got to really dig in and see. These things are so complicated. You got to really dig in and see like what they mean by owner absentee. What does that actually mean? Because anyone can say that, but if you dig in, they're legitimately like, they could be gone all the time, like whenever, and the business still runs. It's probably going to bump it to the highest range of that multiple. I mean, that's a big deal. The highest range of like what that should fetch on the market. It's not going to make it
6x,
10x multiple or anything. It's not going to make it anything crazy. Even if this is fully owner absentee,
it maybe would get to a 2.5.
No, for a laundromat, I would say 4.5.
4 is where you're topping out then.
For me,
if
personally.
It's a truly, like, he hasn't seen his laundromats in like 2 years. He's fully jet setting. That's a 4x at this rate.
Probably in this economy.
In this economy, yes.
Yeah, that's a big part of it too. It's in this economy, it's tough. It's tougher to sell a business. We can't ignore that.
Really? So you feel like we've seen a shift in the aggressiveness of buyers, or do you think we've seen a shift in seller demands?
Hmm.
Or is that a whole episode?
I think that's a whole episode.
Oh, I think we just found another episode topic.
I love that.
Yeah, this guy actually has another one on here. We can check it out real quick. Another pretty Christian Zarma, who is with Hedgestone Business Advisors. They're pushing out crazy amounts of business right now. So look them up. They got a lot of deals going on right now. And this guy is, yeah, he is hitting the sites, man.
He's got a lot of little guys.
Oh yeah, he's got a lot of little ones, but
that's an outlier.
Yeah, that's a beefy boy. So where's that one that was like 300 something and 95K? It was like, it's pretty stark difference there. Yeah, 850 and 95. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
that's an even crazier multiple.
That is,
what
yeah.
Is that?
That's almost a 10x.
There's no way it's selling for anywhere near that though.
Sale pending, but then
50 divided by 92. That's it's listed for a 9.2x multiple. At less than $100,000 in cash flow. Yeah, for this, I wouldn't pay more than like a 2x multiple at the very high end. Probably not more than a 1.5. It's just not very much cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, great job in the listing, Christian. These are great, very transparent, very clear on what you're getting. So good job with those. The net income, the interest, which I don't understand what he means by interest.
8 employees handling daily
8 employees, yeah. He doesn't list the salaries though. Like he doesn't list payroll. Royalties, are these franchises?
It sounds like it.
Yeah. So you definitely, I mean, you're definitely not getting almost $1 million for a franchise sale because everybody knows about those. I mean, I'm surprised that if it is a franchise that they're allowing him to sell like this, because they're usually pretty strict on who they'll even sell to. So
depends on the franchise. They kind of all have their own rules, so you never really know. But yeah, I mean, this one is sale pending already, but
right below it says nope. Yes, this is still available. So I guess maybe somebody was like, "Hey, I'll only do it for this," and then they switched the script on them. Which, I mean, buyers go rogue.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as brokers, we have a saying, buyers are liars. And it's just the case. It's the reality. You never really know what's going on the other side of the deal.
You saw that firsthand. You've seen that a lot of times, but I think most recently when somebody sent you a screenshot of like a guy, some account of something with like $10 million in it, which might or may not have been real. Yeah, 50. And it was like, wow, okay. And then poof, they Danny Phantomed on you.
They just ghosted you.
Yeah. Yep. And it was like, wait, what? Hold on. Buyers are liars, man. Maybe you don't know, but he was all in and then he was suddenly no longer existing.
Sure. Or that, you could be selling your business. You could have someone sign an LOI with every intention to move forward, and then they just pop out on you. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. So I'd be interested actually if Christian, if this crosses his desk, I would love to get his kind of take on how he structures a deal like this, because there's clearly a methodology to his listings, and I'd be interested to see what sort of calculations he ran to get to this price point.
His methodology. Jack it up to an absurd multiple that no one's going to pay and hope someone bites.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, no more. Never mind, Christian. We don't need you on the show anymore. That was easy.
No, I mean, in reality, I'm sure he's a great broker. It's probably the sellers dictating the prices he's listing at.
Yeah.
He's probably behind the scenes just hoping that he can smooth things over with the expectations and that they still do get some inquiries from it. Because as someone who's thinking about buying a business, this an absurd valuation kind of is just a turnoff. Like, I might be interested in the business, but not really reach out because it just doesn't make sense.
And I think people who are even, seasoned business owners, entrepreneurs, I mean, you're a busy person. We were talking about today just how much work you've been doing lately, more than, I mean, you're pushing what, 12ers? You're doing 12ers now, 10 hours and 12ers, yeah.
Usually wake
conservative.
up at 5 or 6 a.m. and I mean, I'm working till like 8 or 9 most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have time to be like assessing this deal and going, calculations, let me go back and forth with him. You want someone that looks good, has proper things, looks like a competent ratio, and then you say, okay, let's talk. You don't have time to be like, let me go back and forth with this guy. So I think I think this probably will isolate a lot of people who are either got cash getting into the market and people who are in the market doing well, but don't want to deal with the back and forth of a ridiculous ask. So I hope he gets something going, but that's crazy.
To cap things off here, I'm going to give this listing a D.
Yeah, this is gonna be a D minus from me. I'm gonna give Christian an A because I like his photo.
The listing is well put together.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not getting an F for me. But I'd have to put the most weight if I'm grading this deal on the basis of being a deal. I have to put the most weight on the finances of the deal, and it's not the math is not mathing.
No,
I'm not paying anywhere. If I'm buying this business, I'm not paying anywhere near that.
Also, you're an owner absentee business. You're so proud of it. Well, if you're buying owner absentee, I'm going to look at another state. Why am I going to stick to Orlando if I'm owner absentee looking? So it's like a Toys R Us catalog from back in the day. You're flipping through. You're looking at pictures. The prices are smaller. Like, I'm just going to find the best deal. So I think in this market, like you said, in this economy, this is just you're just hanging yourself out to dry for this.
It's true. Well, if you are looking into buying a business, tune in every Tuesday night right around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we cover things like this, where you can get educated on the process, hopefully understand a little bit more about it. Little quick teaser, we do have a community for people who are looking to buy businesses. So go to scaleforsale.com/community if you want to check that out. We've got some upcoming announcements for that right around the corner, where we're expanding that into something where we can give a little bit more support for the people that we're helping buy businesses. But in the meantime, just stay tuned for updates on that. Tune in every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're someone who's thinking about selling your business and maybe you've heard something that rung true with you on this, maybe you've had some issues trying to sell your business or some deals that have gone sideways or that have fallen apart, we've got programs that can help you sell your business to, we have a list of over 50,000 buyers that are actively looking to buy businesses, and we can help you sell your business for a structure that works for both sides. So reach out, let us know where your struggle is, where you're trying to go. And till then, we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.